Hi, Ben here, and we're going to take a look at how I put together my brass barrels within some of the flywheel Nerf blasters that I do. And this one particularly we're looking at is the Hailstorm Mk.5, and this is going to be the brass barrel that goes into the Mk.5 when I get the whole thing done. So the first thing is you got to have the right piece of brass, and I use 9/16 inch it's a saw. I think it's a 230 series. It's the softer, like the shell casing brass. Nice, soft. It's very smooth on the inside, and also a dart slides very, very easily within that. You can see it's actually a little bit loose on the dart how it goes through, so the dart runs very nicely in and out of that barrel. So taking the 9/16, the piece sections, I got it in like 3-foot sections, and I cut it down to the length that I want the barrel to be, including the brass guide. Now, the brass guide portion of it is what's going to fit into the clip, and the brass barrels here, they do two things. One is they keep the dart centered as they go through the flywheels, but they also allow the dart to feed very evenly, very consistently when they come in. So the first part of this is to get that length. I wanted it to come just out the back of the cage here on the back end, fitting kind of right into there. But on this end, I want it to come to the middle of the clip. So you can see when the clip goes in here, I cut the length. I start at the middle of the clip, and that's because this guide is going to hold this portion here. It's going to take up this portion of the brass, and then the rest of it's going to run through and then all the way through the second flywheel cage. I want it to be completely through the second flywheel cage, but I don't want a lot of extra on the end, because the more brass I put on the end here, the more drag, and it's going to lose more velocity. So I kind of keep it as short as possible into that second, but it's got to go all the way through that second cage. So as you can see here, I've marked this, getting ready to cut it, and I've marked out the section of the brass that I'm going to cut to make that feed guide. And you can see those cuts match up right with the lips on the clip. So the back of the clip is going to be open on the bottom, and then as it gets to these lips that hold the darts in on the magazine itself, then I narrow it up and it comes in here. So you can see on this, that's going to fit. Pull it down here, we can show that right there is going to fit in between those. And I might have to make this just a little bit skinnier than I marked it, because it looks like it's going to be a fairly tight fit if I don't. So I'm going to take this section of brass, take my Dremel, and use an old Craftsman Dremel that I've had for years and years and years. I need to replace it, really. And I'm going to use that to cut out, and I'm going to spare you guys the screaming noise of my Dremel on this video. I got the feed guide cut out, the markings that I had on here. And incidentally, my Dremel died, and I was not able to use the Dremel, so I ended up having to use a little hand hacksaw to make all those brass cuts with. Alright, so now that I've got this cut out, we're going to do three things to it. One, we're going to take the pair of needle nose pliers here, and we're going to go in here and we're going to ream this out. And what this does, this actually spreads the brass a little bit, and it'll cause this to open up and feed in a little bit nicer. The second thing is these corners here, I'm going to bend them back and file them back out so that they're way back out of the way so that the dart doesn't catch on them. And then on the very end of this feed guide here, I'm going to take it, I'm going to curl this up into a lip for the same reason. So when a dart comes up and makes contact, and you can kind of see when it's going to make contact here, this will curl away so there's no opportunity for this or these points here to catch on the dart as it's feeding in. I'll file this out too and make this all nice and smooth so that it doesn't catch the dart like it's doing now. I've got all of the points and the ridges all filed down. You can kind of see here, this bends back. So if you take the dart now, when it sets in here, and then it slides really easy right in through this. And I've got these lips peeled back. I've got this peeled back, so there's nothing anywhere to catch. And it takes and it kind of centers the dart. So if the dart's a little bit off center, it's going to bring it back to center before it feeds in through. And then you can see also I've got this lip all worked out, expanded out so that there's room to everything just feeds real nice and real smooth coming into here. Now I went and I took and I marked out the windows that I'm going to cut out, and it's kind of a rough marking. I'm going to play with it a little bit as I'm going through, but you can see I've got them X'd out here, and this is the side profile. The parts here and here are actually going to be left. That's going to be left brass, and what's going to get cut out is the parts on the X. And see, I took here when I measured this, and I set this piece where it was about where it was to go, and then rolled this up, and I marked the center of the flywheels, and then I measured off of them and off of them to create the windows that are going to get cut out here. And then I did lines around both sides to kind of mark those edges, and then I marked how much of a strip I wanted in between. I've done this enough times so I know about the width that I want here. But again, these are rough markings, and when I cut them out, I'm going to cut them a little shy, and then use the grinder to get them in and get them precise and get them the way that I'd like to see them on here. I've cut these out a couple different ways. I've cut them out with my Dremel before. I really don't like cutting them out with a Dremel all that much, to tell you the truth, and I can't do it this time because the Dremel's now kind of out of commission. The other way I've used my grinder with a grinding wheel and just kind of grind the brass out, and it works. It's more precise, but it makes it really, really hot, and you got to also be careful that it doesn't catch it and pull it out there. But I'm going to be using the grinding wheel to grind these out, to take these sections out, and then I'll go ahead and do that, and once I'm done with it, I'll come back and show you the finished product. So I got the windows for the flywheels cut out, and I ended up using the grinder to take it in, and it got hot, and you had to go slow with that, but it's more precise, and ended up working out really well. So I got the 4 windows cut, and then I cut it a little less than it needed to be, fitted it, cut it, or ground it down a little bit more, fit it, until I got it fitting in here properly. And then you can see once I get this in here, and I get it situated properly within the cage, now all 4 flywheels spin cleanly. And they don't touch and they don't rub. And when I eventually do the final mount into the cage, I'm going to glue it to these 2 points right here as well, so that to keep it from sliding in and out or possibly rotating into the flywheel cage. So anyways, that's the brass barrel for the Hailstorm Mk.5. It kind of gives you an idea of how I put the brass barrels together, and this is something that you could use for a standard single cage, double cage, triple cage. Just same setup, it's just more windows being cut out. Now, one thing before I forget, I still have some cleanup work to do on this, and I need to take a round file and kind of get in here on these edges and get a lot of these burrs out, because those burrs will catch, they'll slow down your dart, and a lot of times it'll cause it to jam in there. So you got to make sure all of these edges on each of these 4 windows are very clean with the inside, so that when the dart slides through, it doesn't catch on anything. So I've got a little bit of cleanup left to do on that, and then the barrel guide assembly will be complete. So anyways, this is how I put my brass barrels together. Thanks for watching.